Chairman, after a year of the White House indecision and hand-wringing, the President finally presented to the American people his strategy to defeat ISIS. However, that was announced last week fell short in two vital areas that I want to share with you. First, the President again failed to acknowledge the seriousness of the threat that ISIS poses to the United States national security and its homeland. His claim that America is safer may support his political narrative, but it's not true. Secretary Hagel, I appreciate your honesty when you described ISIS on August the 21st, and you said as an imminent threat to every interest we have, whether it's in Iraq or any place else. I agree with you. ISIS has reported 35,000 fighters, nearly 3 times larger than it was in June. It's tripled since June, and is growing larger every day. It's estimated that at least 2,000 fighters hold Western passports, and at least 100 are U.S. citizens. This, coupled with their vast resources, large safe haven, bloodthirst to kill more Americans, is a recipe for disaster. The administration continues to say no specific evidence of plots against the homeland exist. Now, I want to remind everyone that we didn't have any specific evidence of plots against the homeland before 9/11. Now we face an extremist organization that is larger, more brutal, better networked, and better funded than al-Qaeda ever was. I believe it's critical to have in the record that we established today how ISIS is fundamentally different from al-Qaeda. First of all, al-Qaeda hides in caves. ISIS takes holds of governs territories the size of my state of Oklahoma. Secondly, al-Qaeda has small groups of specialized fighters using terrorist tactics. ISIS is an army with tanks, artillery, using conventional military insurgent and terrorist tactics. Al-Qaeda is based in remote regions of the world. ISIS sits on Europe's doorstep. Al-Qaeda outdated propaganda uses the outdated propaganda in Arab language media, but ISIS uses sophisticated media in multiple languages, including English, to spread its cause to recruit fighters. Al-Qaeda spent $1 million. This is very significant, Mr. Chairman. They spent $1 million on 9/11. ISIS, we're going to say until today, takes more than $1 million every day. There's an AP story this morning that shows very convincingly that they have access to an additional $3 million every day. Now, the second thing that I think is of a vital area, the President's strategy to defeat ISIS is fundamentally detached from the reality on the ground. Let's be clear. ISIS commands a terrorist army comprised of tens of thousands of organized fighters who have tanks, anti-tank missiles, and artillery. Its conventional battlefield successes have allowed it to triple its ranks in size in only 3 months. It will take an army to beat an army, but instead the President presented the limited counterterrorism strategy that he compared to his approach in Yemen and Somalia. The difference between al-Qaeda in Yemen and Somalia and that of ISIS are enormous, and our strategy for each should reflect that reality. Taking this one-size-fits-all is destined for failure. General Deptula, architect of the successful U.S. air campaign that destroyed the Taliban army on the battlefield in 2001, said, and this is a quote, he said, "We need to institute an aggressive air campaign in which air power is applied like a thunderstorm, not like a drizzle. Furthermore, airstrikes can only be fully effective, especially in urban areas ISIS is entrenched in, when paired with the skills of a trained air controller on the ground." The President already ruled out boots on the ground. There was a collective sigh of relief at ISIS headquarters in Syria when they heard him say that. His claim of no boots on the ground is an insult to the men and women in Iraq today who are serving in harm's way. We already have boots on the ground in Erbil, in Baghdad, and throughout Iraq. We should ask the pilots dropping bombs over Iraq whether they think they are in combat. Pilots who face the real threat of having to eject over ISIS-held territory. I'm not advocating an army division or combat elements on the ground, but it is foolhardy for the Obama administration to tie the hands and so firmly rule out the possibility of air controllers and special operators on the ground to direct airstrikes and advise fighter forces. It sends the wrong message to our troops, to the enemy, and to partners. And furthermore, if Congress does authorize the training and equipping of the Syrian moderate opposition and then pushes them into combat without advisors on the ground, that effort is most likely to fail. And we still don't have the answers to the most important and fundamental questions about what we're ultimately trying to accomplish, such as what does defeated or destroyed ISIS look like. Finally, I hope we get the answers today, not only to the President's strategy, but also about the current state of our military readiness. General Dempsey, nothing significant has changed from when you warned on February 12th of last year, not this year, that our military is on a path where the force may become, quote, so degraded and so unready that it would be immoral to use force, unquote. With 6 years of massive budget cuts and another round of defense sequestrations on the horizon, we're still on that path. Despite this, the administration is still calling on our military to support its pivot to Asia, bolster our European allies against a growing Russian threat, successfully transition our missions in Afghanistan, support the response to the Ebola. And by the way, we hear this morning another 3,000 troops are going to be going over there. And now to launch a military operations against ISIS in Iraq and Syria. Unlike what the President seems to believe, you can't have it both ways. You can't slash our defense budget on one hand while expecting our military to do it on the other. If we want our military men and women to go into harm's way and defend this country, we need to give them the training, the tools, and the support they need to succeed. Without a ready, capable military, the President's imperfect strategy will remain what has become the trademark of this administration. A lot of tough talk that isn't backed by meaningful action. I was hoping we could debate these broadly important issues with the NDAA, but we've not been able to do that. So it looks like, Mr. Chairman, that this is it. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator.